So in today's video, I wanted to focus on some of the biggest issues in Warzone with the hope that maybe they resolve some of them by the time Season 5 launches. Obviously with Season 4, it's been a little bit dry as far as content goes. There really hasn't been any new weapons. We got the sniper rifle, which was kind of trash. I think it's a good quick scoping gun. But obviously there's other issues with the game that I wanted to talk about today. And it applies specifically more for Warzone, but obviously some of the stuff is going to apply to multiplayer as well. If you guys do enjoy the video or learn something new, please do me a favor hitting that like button. Goal in today's video is 1,500 likes. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. If there's any of these issues that you agree with or disagree with, feel free to comment down below. Obviously, we can kind of add to the conversation if you guys want to participate in that. If not, no big deal. Okay, a quick side note before we jump all the way into the video. My Gfuel code is dropped from today all the way until the 31st, so the end of July, for 30% off. So if you want to try out a variety pack because you've never tried Gfuel, you want to see what it's all about, find a flavor for you before you get a tub, definitely go the variety pack route. And it's a great substitute over energy drinks if you're not a fan of coffee especially. So with that, let's get back into the topic of the video. It's kind of an opportunity to kind of vent with some of the issues that have arisen primarily, and the root cause ends up being skill-based matchmaking. I know a lot of people will want to argue that it helps, it's beneficial for the player base. It's not fair that a 0.7 KD player goes against someone who has a 6 KD. All right, I get some of those aspects. But the real issues start to come into play with weapon balance, because no matter how much you balance the game's meta or the most common weapons that are going to be used are always going to be the same weapons, which are always the best. And the reason why skill-based matchmaking kind of ruins that is because you're basically playing a ranked game mode. There's no rank next to your name telling you how much better you are than the lobby, like a ranked game mode would. You get your champion rank or your prestige or whatever you want to call it. There'd be some kind of ranking. You at least know, hey, you know what, I'm sweating to get my rank higher. And unfortunately, Call of Duty doesn't have a casual playlist. It is what it is. In this particular case, they could have had a casual and then a ranked playlist, and you would just treat the game modes differently. That's why if you go to the CDL playlist, almost everyone's going to be using the meta weapons that aren't GA'd by the pros, versus in a public match, the way it's always been done in Call of Duty and in pretty much most video games up until probably 2015, is that there wasn't really much skill-based matchmaking. If it was, they really didn't push it out there and kind of put it to the point where it is. And I can remember my experiences playing different Call of Duties. If I go back to like COD 4 all the way up through the MW series, as far as MW2, MW3, and then obviously the new Modern Warfare, or go through the Black Ops series, or go through the World War II that came out, you can pretty much use about 90% of the weapons in the game. That's what ends up happening. Modern Warfare kind of has a similar weapon balance, but the problem is you end up running up against people that are like skilled. And if somebody doesn't want variety in their game, what they're going to use is the best weapons at all time. If you're playing multiplayer, you're probably going to use the FAL just because it's currently broken with the one-shot kill mechanic that allows you to have a TTK of 0, like a sniper rifle getting a chest shot and above. And then there's a lot of other weapons that are going to be primarily used. M4 has always been a given, 7.25 because of its one-shot kill potential, even though it's been nerfed. Then you got the MP5, MP7, probably the Uzi, and there's a few other rifles thrown in, like the Kilo or whatever the case is. So there's a little bit of weapon variety, but at the top, that's pretty much everyone's using the same exact weapons. If you're playing with money on the line, guaranteed you're going to be using the best class setups. And I know that this is not the case because I've done gameplay breakdowns of several types of skilled players, and 9 times out of 10, and you could spot the lobby almost immediately. Pretty much every gunfight wasn't a Grau abuser when the Grau was the meta, and not a Bruen abuser now that that's the meta, and no FALs to be found anywhere. People are using like super off meta weapons like the Scar, the Striker with hollow point rounds, all kinds of stuff you would never see in a regular gameplay lobby that I'm in. Normally how it's going to kind of split everyone is you have pretty much everyone around 1.5 KD and above. So if you have a 1.5 KD, you're going to be partnered up against people that have a 6 KD. If you have a 2.0 KD, there's going to be people that have 6 KD in the lobby. But obviously, since there's not a bunch of 6 KD players, there's probably only going to be like 3 or 4 of them in the entire match. And then you got your 4 KD players, 2 KD, and then your 1.5, which are towards the bottom of it. And you're going to have a hell of a time because the lobby doesn't have any variety to it. It kind of just has people that are good at the game and can shoot. And then below that, probably around like, below the 1.5. So obviously if you're on that borderline, you can go above or below. Sometimes your lobby experience will be different. But if your KD's below that, everyone in your lobby is going to be below and kind of like gate kept to a lower skill. So that pretty much everyone you're going against is not going to behave like the top players. They're not going to move like the top players. Their loadouts are not going to be like the top players. Their rotations and positioning is not going to be like top players. Overall movement is just not going to be there. And this is 100% evident when I said, like, I break down gameplays, and I do that regularly on the channel, and I've done them ever since World War II, Infinite Warfare. That's when I really started doing my subscriber gameplay breakdowns. You know what subscriber gameplay breakdowns used to look like back then when people had low KDs? Like my lobbies. They looked exactly like my lobbies. You know, out of a 12-player lobby, you probably have a total of 2, maybe 3 sweats in it, which is the, you know, the top, you know, 20%. And then you have a bunch of average people, usually around 1 KD. And then you have like 2 guys in the lobby that are just bad, you know. And then there's people that are really bad, and you never really run into those. They get kept with the special skill-based matchmaking lobby. So as a result of that, you know, sometimes you'll get gunned because there's that one good guy in the lobby. You know, that's the guy who's going to kill you off your 24 streak when you need a 25 to get the nuke, or 29 when you need 30. That's that guy. And then, you know, the average people, you kind of go through, maybe you get a nuke, maybe you don't, but you progress and you get better. If you were in the average group, you can utilize some tactics that I talk about in my video, take advantage of all the tips, go through all that stuff, and then at the end of the day, you just feel better about it, and you position yourself to get better, and then eventually be one of those top 2 players in the lobby, and that's eventually how it ends up working out. Sometimes you get a little bit lucky. You can, you know, manipulate matchmaking. Not the way that I'm talking about people doing it now, because people just reverse boost or session join bad players. But back then, what you would do is, if there was 2 good people in the lobby, you would just steamroll them, call on your streaks. They would leave because they're not used to getting streaked on, because they just like their KD. They're not actually that KD. Very few people are very good and amazing at the game. So what would happen is they leave the lobby, and guess what? That means everyone else in the lobby is average and below average, but you earned that, you know? Maybe you started a below average player, you moved into the average part, and then eventually become that top tier player. Obviously, not everyone wants to dedicate the time to actually just improve at the game or admit that they're not as good as they think they are. But when you go through it, there's tons of opportunity to improve and become those top players in the lobby. Whereas what I was talking about there, it's only a top 20%, but if I'm playing in a higher skill bracket because I have over a 2 KD in Warzone, what's inevitably going to happen is that about 60% of the lobby is my skill or higher. Obviously, those people that are between 1.5 and about 2.5, which is a little bit lower, then they're going to end up being on the lower end, and they're going to be in that 40%. So probably about 40% of my engagement is going to look like some guy doesn't really have a clue just because they're not as good as everyone else in the lobby. Those other people that I'm running into that have 2.5 and above, they're definitely going to be sweating. They're going to be using the best loadouts. They're going to be bunny hopping, the rotation and positioning. They're going to be well ahead of the curve. You can't mess around with that. Obviously, there's some scenarios where maybe 1v2 people or 1v3 just because of good positioning or you outplay potential. And those could have been the guys that were the lowest skilled in the lobby. But overall, you're going to run into people that do not miss shots, unforgiving. You can't be making any mistakes. You have to play the perfect version of Call of Duty. And I know sometimes people see these gameplay videos from top players like Swag or Nick Merckx or whoever else is posting content, you know, that actually posts gameplay highlights. They play for 8 to 10 hours a day, and they're showing you the one highlight. You know what they deal with for the other time? They deal with stream snipers and other skilled players that can get into their lobby, because if you're a good player, it's easy to queue up and get into their lobby if you just time it right. And then that obviously leads to the other issue, which is ping. You end up getting more ping as they put you in these higher brackets, because it's going to look for players, and sometimes if the ping waits too long, it'll throw you in a little bit lower than average, or an average lobby instead of like an above average lobby, and you kind of get lucky and you kind of run through and you're like, ooh, this lobby don't feel right. And you'll hear other streamers, they'll be like, ooh, this is that kind of lobby. They can notice immediately based off how the players play. They can spot it, because when you're a good player, you can recognize if somebody is cheating, and you can recognize if somebody is good, and you can recognize if somebody's below average or average, because everything has to line up. How good is their accuracy? How is their movement? How's their positioning? How are they rotating? How are they looking like their weapon choice? All these variables, you could stack up how a good player is. Obviously, there's some outliers and some people that are a little bit more outside the box and unpredictable. The vast majority of players, pretty much the same exact thing you're going to notice, because they feel like they're playing with money on the line. You know, I really enjoy using the Scar, the Odin, some of these other weapons, but guess what? I can't use those because guy with the 4 KD in my lobby is going to be using the Bruen with the FAL. Bruen MP5. Kilo MP5. Kilo FAL. And that's pretty much it. No variety of class setups. They're all going to be running either EOD double time for the first perk, Ghost for the second perk after they've gotten their overkill class, and then Amp for the third perk. That's it. No variety. running at C4. 90% of the lobby is going to be running at C4. I look at these other guys and they're running like a stim, and it's like, man, gameplay breakdowns, what the hell's going on? They just casually walk in the open. I'm like, you couldn't do that. Sitting on top of a building, just sniping, and very long taking to take the shot and no one shoots at them is like, ugh, there's something going on here. And it's very obvious when you watch a lower skilled lobby that there's an issue. So how do you solve it, right? I mean, I know I kind of ranted for a long time. That's a very long time. Sorry about that. But these are things that I think about the game, right? And the issue isn't, you know, there's two issues. One is to just kind of nerf the Bruen and the FAL. Those kind of came out of nowhere. People were all addicted to the Growl and the MP5. Then the FAL got a buff, like that was a considerable buff, which is primarily for multiplayer, but it bled over to Warzone. It's the most broken thing in existence. You go 1v3 people and it's not even fair. You could delete them and then they barely get to land a bullet on you. Whereas the Bruen, it was just kind of kept under the radar. It's kind of a better M4, and the M4 was meta before the Growl. So imagine that, a weapon that is better than the M4 ends up being meta when it's time to get meta. It was a hassle to unlock. So you can go about nerfing those, maybe make the movement and everything slower on the Bruen, and just better players wouldn't use that, and then they'll go ahead and use the Kilo, the M4, the M13, or the Growl still, because some people are still a fan of that, and you kind of stick around those weapons. But you're really not going to see a huge meta shift with variety unless you lower skill-based matchmaking. Just not going to happen. If you're a pro player and you're playing for $2 million or $1 million in a tournament, you think you're going to pick up a terrible weapon? No, you're going to play your odds and try and get a win. And most people in the Battle Royale, they want to get a win. There are people that are kill hunters and kill chasers, and that's a smaller percentage. Obviously, it's entertaining to watch, but for the vast majority of players, they don't get more than 7 kills a match. That is the vast majority, and that is 7 kills with a win. That is the average kills a player gets when they get a win. So most people aren't getting more than that. If you are, kudos to you. You're better than average, and you probably have sweat lobbies. You probably bunny hop, and you probably drop shot on occasion. You know where all the spawn locations of everything are. You know how to position on everything. You know where your favorite spots are. Everything. You have all that mapped out, and you play the game that much. So kudos to you. You're above average. Everyone else usually sits in below 7 kill per game average, and that's normal. That's okay. But you don't typically run into those people, so you can lower the meta. The other thing is to consider rebalancing a lot of the weapons. Can be a headache because usually they don't really rebalance properly. They either nerf to the dirt, or if they buff, they make it too strong, which is the issue we have with the FAL. Obviously, the Odin could be good if it had more ammo. I think you can leave the Scar there as well. Leave it with its ADS speed. The recoil is a little bit hard to control, but it is what it is for some people. Just give it more ammo. Make it 45 round mag, and then you can do a squad wipe, and you're cool with that, right? You can do it with the 30 round, but it's incredibly, everyone's got to be a little bit low health, and you got to be hitting all your shots, which isn't very practical, so no one uses it. The Odin right there, like I said, and then there's a lot of other weapons that kind of get hidden under the radar. Maybe buff shotguns a little bit, but not so they're OP. Maybe buff some of the other SMGs. Give the Uzi a 45 round mag instead of the 30. I would use that almost exclusively over the MP5 as a variety. MP7's always been good, but not overpowered. MP5, still good. I think it's in a good spot. I don't think it's overpowered after its nerf. But then you got the Bison, which is kind of a trash floor weapon. The only time it's really good is right when you get it right off landing and you decide you want to, you know, go against somebody that has only 2 plates. Somebody has 3 plates, they're likely going to kill you because the time to kill is not that great. The Fennec, everyone knew the day it came out, they're like, it burns through ammo just a little too quick. It should have a 50 round mag instead of a 40 round. Like, what the heck, has 25? The bullets disappear from your magazine in milliseconds. It's just not a very, you know, viable gun outside of the one instance that it's good, which is point blank in a 1v1. That's pretty much it. It's not good at anything else. Not saying every weapon needs to be viable, but if you add a little bit more viability to the weapons, when you go into a high skill bracket, you would see a little bit more build diversity. Like we saw before, 90% engagement, it was Growl zone. Everyone was using the Growl, and you know, some people use a sniper. They always switch between AX50, HDR, and the Kar 98K. So there's a little bit of balance on that end, especially after the buff. Some people are leaning towards the Kar 98 more, but it's just not good enough. You got to lower the skill-based matchmaking, bring it down just a little bit. Obviously, if there's gonna be bad players, they're already bad. They don't know they're bad. They will never know they're bad, and that's unfortunate. But that kind of just doesn't balance the game out. If I only wanted to play wager matches, I would actually go to the website. I would go to one of the MLG websites and do wagers. I would do game battles and do 2v2 wagers for kill races if I was trying to play for money. But I'm not playing for money. I'm trying to play for a casual experience, give tips about Warzone, which are impractical for anyone that is lower skilled, because guess what? I could give them tips and their lobby is nothing like mine. I could tell them to use these loadouts, but it doesn't even matter what they use, because no one in their lobby can shoot well. You know what I mean? If it's especially the lower skilled lobbies. So it's one of those things. There's people that will use stuff to get away with it because it's in the lower bracket. You really don't have a perception of how good you are or how bad you are if you never run up against anyone above or below your skill level. So variety in the lobbies needs to loosen up, especially with the player base shrinking a little bit as we're getting closer to the next COD. This one's kind of a little bit drier on content. Season 4, in my opinion, has been kind of a bust. I think they had plans to do something with Black Ops, the new Black Ops game coming out or whatever it's called. We won't know. The one made by Treyarch, and then it kind of just got scrapped and pushed back till Season 5. I have no clue. Regardless of what it is, this is a dry season, very limited content, and the other issues, the hackers. I didn't even touch on those. We already know those hackers. I talked about all that in another video where I was just complaining about hackers and how it's broken. They need to resolve the issue and install an anti-cheat. Take the billions you're making over at Activision and invest in a solid anti-cheat. Obviously, nothing is foolproof, but you can get to a point where you don't run into hackers on a daily basis, which sadly is the case. Like I said, those are the recommendations I would make on the weapons. A little bit slower Bruen, a little bit, you know, maybe nerf the trigger cap a little bit on the FAL, maybe down to 440 or something like that, 450 instead of 500-ish, and maybe play with that to see how it works. If it's still broken, then obviously make some adjustments. Because right now you just get deleted by it and there's no real reason to use anything else. Especially if you're in a high skill lobby, you will delete people and they will give you a reaction on the death chatter. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. I know it's a little bit different than I normally do. Hopefully I wasn't too long-winded, but I do appreciate all the support on the content. If you like the content, hit the like button. If you want to find your way back, more Call of Duty content, normally cover tips, breakdowns, weapon guide, all that type of stuff. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on. And if you want to pick my brain live, you can go ahead and follow me over on Twitch. We just broke 10,000 followers on there. So if you want to go ahead and hang out over there, feel free to do so. One of the first links down in the description. And just a heads up, my Gfuel code is currently boosted up to 30% off all the way until the 31st, so through the end of July. So if you want to restock or try something new, you could always do the variety pack, which is probably the most popular seller, I think, from people trying it for the first time. You can get like 10 different flavors, and it's the most affordable to see what you like if you want to go ahead and try and substitute that with your coffee or energy drinks, because maybe you don't want all that sugar in your system. Appreciate all the support on the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.